Hello Power Rangers Lightning Collection fans, and welcome back to Toku Topics. Today I'm wrapping up my reviews of the Deluxe Wave 3 figures with the In-Space Silver Ranger figure and Silver Cycle release. So this is an interesting one here. So this is of course a re-release of the infamous and very hard to find Walgreens exclusive 2021 In-Space Silver Ranger figure. This time though, you just get some slightly different accessories as well as the Silver Cycle. Now for this one, I definitely think that this is worth the re-release. I think that this is perfectly valid because of how hard that original release was to get. I am one of the people who have the original release, and I will be comparing it to the Walgreens one here towards the end of the video. But if you never got a Zhane figure, is this one the definitive one? No. We'll get to that as well later, but this is still a very good entry in the Lightning Collection for those who missed out on that initial release, and you get a little bit more for the deluxe price point. So this one was also one of those rare ones where the actual actor, in this case Justin Nemo, got to announce this figure on a fan stream, or actually during the 10/27 Has Repulse event back in October, and now we finally have it here. And just like I did with Blue Centurion, I got this from Entertainment Earth, which had the entire wave, which is just the two figures, in stock like 2 months early somehow, so that's how I have it here. And I really like this release quite a bit. So there's some problems with it, and we're going to get into all this here. But of course, on the front here, we have the render, which just like Time Force Blue from Deluxe Wave 2, this one has a error on it, I think. I think that helmet is actually In-Space Red's helmet, just based off of kind of the way that the visor curves there. Could be just the weird perspective, but I think that might be the case. But we do have this really pretty picture of In-Space Silver there. I love that you get the whole design there and the little glare on the helmet. That looks pretty sweet. And also, it's kind of strange that they don't have it say and Silver Cycle. I want to say Time Force Blues did say Vector Cycle on the front, so that's kind of a strange thing. But on the side here, which we'll zoom out for, of course, it's just kind of all silver. Of course, here he is actually right now. I've already opened this up, but In-Space logo, In-Space Silver Ranger. You get that artwork continuing on the side, which I do think looks really slick. In-Space logo. You get this kind of gray, silverish Lightning Collection logo at the top, and all of the copyright stuff and barcode stuff on the bottom. And then on the back here, just like we've had with other stuff, we have a render of the figure, which a lot of times has actually been the same render as on the front, but in this case it's a different render, which I think here, I mean, that In-Space Red's helmet there. I kind of see the lines or the little triangle forming there, but not quite, so that's kind of a strange thing, but I do like that it's a separate render. You do also get everything that you shows everything that you get. There is no blast effect piece with this, so if you're thinking that you're missing one when you open this up, there just isn't one because you get a whole cycle. So, and I like that they have the measurements for both the cycle and the Ranger figure. I think that's pretty cool. And also just of note, because I've already opened this up, interestingly enough, most or pretty much all of the plastic-free packaging figures for the Lightning Collection have started to be packed with the civilian head-on as a default and the helmet as an accessory. But that's not the case with Zhane. Zhane is packaged like an old figure was, where the head is kind of the accessory and the helmet is on default. So that's just one thing to keep in mind with this one. It's just kind of a strange thing to decide to do with this one, but they did. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have inside this box. Okay, so here's everything that Zhane has out of the box here, and you do get quite a bit of stuff here. As you can see, the Silver Cycle is assembled in 3 different pieces. So these 2 things are packaged in the baggie with the figure, and there's like a whole separate baggie for the whole Silver Cycle itself. And I think it's a really impressive looking vehicle. I am actually pretty happy to get another vehicle in the Lightning Collection. I think it's always cool when we get those kind of things here. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the actual figure itself, and it's not bad. There are some improvements over the Walgreens one, which I'll do a full comparison of in a little bit, but it's also just kind of a weird one. So of course this is actually using pinless joints now, which the initial release from 2 years ago did not. You may already be noticing a problem. This is twisting way too easily, so we'll get to that, but he is pinless, which does mean he has the classic, or the new classic, male wiggly leg joint. That is, I know not because of it being pinless, but these joints are now super loose on pinless figures, so I just associate it with those. But yep, just like Time Force Blue, just like Wild Force Blue, he is a wiggly boy, which does make him a little difficult to stand up. As you saw, this joint here was rather loose. So the entire figure just feels loose. Even that torso is kind of wobbling around. I have seen some people actually have an issue where like it won't let you do the bend there. It kind of like just rejects it and folds back up, which mine isn't really doing that. It's a little tight, but it's not like this joint is especially a little tight, but it's not like prohibiting me from doing it, I guess, if that makes any sense. Now, I do believe that he does have the new neck joint that was not present on the original figure, of course. So that is obviously just because he has the whole new body mold, which is still a pretty decent-ish one, but it's one of those things to where accessories-wise and just availability to actually be able to get this one easier-wise, I can recommend this release over the Walgreens one. However, the Walgreens one is a better constructed figure. It actually has more paint applications, which we'll get to as well in a second. And also, since that one is not pinless, it will match your other In-Space Rangers, which are also not pinless. So it's kind of one of those things to where I can definitely recommend this release, but it's not 100% perfect. Now, accessories-wise for him, and before we get to the bike, you do get the Super Silverizer in its kind of extended blade mode, as well as in its blaster mode. And then you do get a swappable fist for his right hand, and the Karate Chop fist for his left hand. And then you do get a brand new Zhane head, which is different from the one from the original release, and different from the one from the Psycho Silver release, and that's probably the best of the three. I definitely think it is probably the best of the three. I will go ahead and swap that there. Reasonably easy to get that one off the joint. A little tricky to get this one on the joint, but there it is on there, and I think it's pretty solid. Here's a picture of it next to Justin Nemo. And I definitely do see it in there with this one. I don't think it's that bad of a likeness. So before we actually move on to the Silver Cycle, I am also going to want to go ahead and show off, I can't even get it off now, it was definitely a pretty tight connection, but I want to go ahead and show off the comparison to the Walgreens version. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so here's the comparison. So here is Deluxe Wave 3, the brand new one, and 2021's Walgreens exclusive version, which of course do look pretty similar, but there are some differences. I will go ahead and start with the Zhane heads. So this one had that kind of classic, people kind of compared it to like Jay Leno kind of look kind of thing going on. And I don't know, I like both of them for different reasons. I don't know, I mean, the more I kind of look at it, I kind of do like this one, not gonna lie, but I don't think these are terrible Zhane heads. I think that, they gave it 3 different tries to get this. This one I think looks a little bit more closer to his Psycho Silver release than his, original Walgreens one, which this one won't stand up anymore. But here, let's get to the differences. So here is the Super Silverizer blade mode from the Deluxe release, and here it is from the Walgreens release. And as you can see, the Walgreens release has more paint. It has the little black circle right there, and it has the silver part on the handle. They are the same, or on both sides of the handle. They are the same mold from what I can tell. This is also a darker kind of blue color there. So they're the same mold, but the Deluxe release, which, mind you, is more expensive, has less paint applications, which is strange and annoying. So there's just really no way to get around that. I get it, you get an entire other bike with this, and it's a very minor paint application detail, but it's just kind of strange. And same thing with the blaster here, the blaster mode, you can just see the difference in the black circle and the silver parts, the exact same thing. So basically, I'd say if you could somehow take the bike from the new one, the weapons from the old one, I still really can't tell which figure itself is better. So let's go ahead and look at the 2 helmets, because the promo pictures of this one made it look like it was a kind of very strangely squished visor, which I will say is a little bit more squished than the original one. I definitely do probably prefer the initial release of that for the helmet wise, but it's still, neither of them are bad. I also do prefer on the new one though, the larger squares on the chest compared to the old one. I think the new one definitely has those squares a lot better. People were pointing out how the V on the buckle is a lot less pronounced on the new one than the old one. And that's kind of, the case. It's still there. It's just kind of not as cut as deep, I think. And the golds are also completely different from on the cuffs and on the boots. On this one, the boots are fully painted gold. On this one, it kind of stops at the top of the boot cuffs, which is a little kind of weird when you look at it in certain ways. And of course, as you can see, this one is not pinless. This one is. That's why this one is holding together nicely, and this one is not. Oh my god. Of course this one has the drop down joints because of that too, but still. This has to stop. It has to stop with this kind of a new body mold, because we can't have every single male figure from now on be a loose, leg mess. But like I said, it's kind of your mileage may vary basically, or kind of your preference, I suppose, is kind of the better term, of which one of these you think is the better In-Space Silver for your collection. I think that there are good qualities from both of them, and somewhere between here and some kind of weird, Frankenstein together version of accessories and helmets and stuff, you probably have a pretty good In-Space Silver, but I also think both of them are very good In-Space Silvers on their own anyway. So I think that you can definitely probably now skip the Walgreens one if you have the new one. But like I said, with the paint and everything, you might want to still track it down for that. It's just kind of your own personal preference. So now it's time to take a look at the Silver Cycle itself. And this is pretty good. I really do like the molding of this quite a bit. Like I said, you get 3 different pieces for this to make this one work. So for this one, you just have to take it and attach, I think I had it backwards there, attach the handlebars up on this little peg right here, which I would definitely say is a little difficult to do. It doesn't really want to peg in all the way, but you can you have to kind of force it in there. But it will stay pretty good once you have it, I would say. And then you have this entire front console piece where you're just going to clip in like that, and it kind of doesn't really like click or anything, but here is the fully assembled Silver Cycle. And it's great. So I actually did a fun little video about a month or so ago where I unboxed, I bought off of eBay the original Bandai toy of this and kind of showed it off with the In-Space Silver figure and everything. And that one was cool because that one could turn into the Galaxy Glider. This one cannot do that, even though I still think they probably could have somehow engineered it to do so. But, because at the top, that's basically kind of the Galaxy Glider there, for the most part. But I still do appreciate in some regards that it can't do that, so that way it can just kind of be a more accurate bike. And it's good. I really do have no problems with it. I think it's sculpted nicely. You have the correct symbol and stuff there. Paint applications are pretty good. You get this nice matte black there. The front looks good with the little headlights. I love the console. They got a good on the dashboard there. They have a lot of good detail there. That piece, I would say, is a little loose. I'm worried about that kind of falling off quite easily. You do have the handlebars do rotate the front wheel, which is a very nice touch. The Vector Cycle could do the same thing from Deluxe Wave 2, so I definitely appreciate that. Now in the original Bandai release, these kind of folded out to be kickstands, but you do get a retractable kickstand on this one, which just kind of has that pretty loud peg noise, but you can do that. And I will say, these are relatively thin handlebars, so while I think it's always been kind of difficult, and especially with things like, that joint doesn't want to move, but especially with things like Time Force Blue and the Vector Cycle, it was a little tricky to get the Ranger to actually, ride the cycle and grip the handlebars, but these ones are pretty much thin enough to where you can just slot the hands in with little to no effort. And then you can have Zhane riding this bike quite easily. And that looks good. So I'm happy with that. I'm very happy with that. So I think that this is definitely a win. I would say it's probably my favorite Lightning Collection vehicle so far, because the Vector Cycle looked beautiful, but you could barely get a Ranger to sit on it. The Galaxy Glider has all those quality control problems, but that first batch had the problem with the symbol being incorrect, but even that wasn't that bad of a piece, but it was just kind of a piece of plastic. And the Uniform Cycle was also not too terrible for SPD Omega either, but I still think that this is just kind of our best one so far, and I'm quite happy with how it turned out for this release. And with that is going to do it for my video review of the Power Rangers Lightning Collection Deluxe Wave 3 in Space Silver and Silver Cycle. So this is the wave partner of the Turbo Blue Centurion, and while I think both the previous Deluxe Waves before this, so Deluxe Wave 1 with In Space Blue, that had some problems with it and it was a duplicate reused figure. Deluxe Wave 2 has Time Force Blue, which I think is probably the worst Lightning Collection figure that's ever been made. So I think it's definitely about time that we had a good Deluxe Wave, and between the two of these, we have a good Deluxe Wave. I have next to no problems with both of these figures from this wave. This is, I think, where Deluxe is finally living up to its name, and it's really good, and I'm really happy that people are going to actually have a chance to get In Space Silver for their collections. If you never got that elusive Walgreens one, which I know a lot of people didn't get, so this is definitely going to be up a lot of people's alleys for that. So I will be leaving an Entertainment Earth link in the description below, which is where I got mine, as well as the Amazon affiliate link for this is still listed as an April 1st pre-order, but I'm sure it'll probably be out in the next month or so instead of April. So if you use that link and you pre-order it there or order it via there, if it's in stock and you're watching this later, that will help out the channel if you use that link. And of course, until next time, you guys can follow me on Twitter at LivingRangerKey or LightningFigPR, and I will see you all later. To wrap up this video, I'd like to thank my $5 and above patrons: Jurassic Samurai, Maggot Alchemist, Robert Browning, Static Thunder, Brendan Overland, Maji Yellow, Redstone MCPC, Comics 1017, James Darty, Monster Rocket, John Luke, Eric Berry, Tyler Brzezinski, Matthew Thorne, Josh Landry, Paramitis, and CPT Tesla. You can support Toku Topics for as little as $1 a month on my Patreon, link in the description below.